What's going on? Will Freeman, RevolutionaryLifestyleDesign.com, talking to you today about the ugly, brutal, cold truth about every single relationship. I'm not just talking about male-female relationships, I'm talking about all of them. But don't worry, I've got a happy ending, as always. I never come to you with a problem until I have a solution. Three truths, okay? All relationships are number one, temporary, number two, conditional, number three, transactional. Number one, temporary. Okay? At the end of the day, every single relationship, one person is going to die. Whether it's the greatest marriage of all time, the end. As the Buddha said, life is temporary and transient. The Holy Spirit is not temporary and transient, but the life within this physical body is temporary and transient. No relationship lasts forever. Okay? Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's something that you can prepare for, whether it's in sales or all by always having another client lined up, or whether it's in relationships. Okay. Now it's your choice whether you want to bet big on one particular relationship, like one huge client, or a monogamous girlfriend, or you want to spread that around and have multiple clients and multiple women. In business, it's usually a lot better to have a lot of different clients, and then ideally be able to move on towards a business that can scale if possible. Start the service business, build up a high ticket service business, and maybe be able to scale into products and different things like that. It's much easier with multiple clients. But there will be times where it's also useful to get to stick with one big client and over service that person. And it's the same thing with women. Sometimes the MLTR thing is the right thing to do. Sometimes the girlfriend situation is the right thing to do. Okay, I'm not one of those guys who's gonna get on top of guys for having a girlfriend or even a wife. I did the video on not getting married. I still believe legally in the West you can't get married, but if you do want to have a family, it's an option, but it is a big gamble, and it's something where you'd have to protect your assets, to make that gamble. I wouldn't make that gamble in the West in the current climate. I still believe, in that video that I did almost 4 years ago. But you can see the whole breakdown in how to develop your dating game plan. It's a series that I did. Really the crux of it is based around the fact that relationships are temporary. Not to say you can't have a great relationship for the rest of your life, but it ends when one of you dies. So knowing that is going to allow you to avoid so much frustration, so much anxiety, so much, because a lot of those emotions come from unmanaged expectations. Okay, so just like when I was in a decade in sales, every time I got paid by a client, I would tell myself this could be the last money I'd get from that person, so it would keep me working harder. It would be the same thing in a girlfriend situation or kind of an MLTR situation, being like, this is not guaranteed, okay? I cannot just get fat and get lazy and get complacent and think that I'm going to be able to maintain anyone of high quality, whether it's a girlfriend or whether it's an MLTR. So knowing that these things are temporary should give you that motivation to wake up and continue to earn what you have, as well as continue to, expand into more clients or whatever. All right. Number two, conditional. No such thing as unconditional love. Sometimes your girlfriend loves you. Sometimes she doesn't like you. Sometimes she fucking hates you. You know what? Sometimes your mom hates you. She'll tell you she loves you forever, but she didn't love you when she was yelling at you. Okay? Because we're constantly going through these state changes. And there are certain conditions that will violate any relationship. Okay? There are parents that don't talk to their children. If their children had been drug addicts and violent, there are parents that lost love for their children. This happens. And the quality of a relationship is based on certain conditions: mutual respect, love, all these different things. That applies to friendships, that applies to business partners, that applies to clients, that applies to romantic relationships. It's all conditional, and the more that someone likes you is based on certain conditions. The less that someone likes you is based on certain conditions. And those conditions can be your behavior, it can be how the other person's feeling at the time, it can be the situations that you're in together, like, you know, having a few beers on this beach that you can see behind me with a couple of good friends. That's a great condition to be in, having a great time, which means that your affinity for those people are going to be higher in that moment than when you're waking up tired the next morning with a bit of a hangover. So it's not just the actual condition of the relationship, but the condition is based on how people are feeling within their lives, their health, a number of different factors. But in every single relationship, it is 100% conditional. There's no such thing as unconditional love. You don't love people all the time. Okay, you're varying. You're going through different states. If you're very sick, you don't love anybody. If you have food poisoning, you don't love anybody at that point. All you're doing is feeling pain and trying to get away from that pain. Okay, so you're always moving through different conditions, not just in life, but in all your relationships. Again, same motivation with the temporary nature of relationships is to be, not to rest on your heels with anything. If you value a relationship, it's something to be nurtured, something to be maintained, something to be worked on. If you feel distance or something growing with someone, whether it's a client or a friend or a girlfriend, it's up to you to create those better conditions, not to wait for someone else to create those conditions. Okay. And number 3, relationships are transactional. Transactional is an ugly word. People think a lot of the times about money. Okay. And yes, a lot of relationships are about money. Business relationships are for sure about money. But a lot of marriages, a lot of boyfriend, girlfriend, they're not solely about money, okay? But she's not going to be with you if you're homeless. She's also probably not going to be with you if you're a janitor, especially if she's attractive, because she'd want a higher quality of life. It's not solely transactional. Does not mean she's a gold digger, does not mean she likes you only for your money, but your money certainly makes you more attractive because you're able to give her a better life, which creates better conditions for that relationship. But it's not just a financial transaction. Everything's transactional. You're always transacting some kind of emotion, okay? Nobody's in a relationship for no reason. They're in a relationship because they're getting something out of it. They're getting sex, they're getting affection, they're getting money, they're getting love, they're getting humor, they're getting warmth, they're getting some of those things, or all of the above, depending on the relationship. And you're probably not getting that in a business relationship, but you get what I'm saying. Okay, everything is some kind of a transaction. You're spending your time with someone, okay, you're spending your time with that person because you are getting something out of that, and that person is getting something that you give out of that. Down to, talking to the checkout girl, you're trying to be cheerful and charming, as you always are, and you're hoping that she responds in turn, and now you've had a positive transaction. You've exchanged state, you've raised her state, and she's gone back and raised your state, and it's been a positive interaction. Okay. And so that's the sense that I mean transactional, and it's not just purely in a financial sense. It's a sense of like every moment of every relationship, you are going back and forth with someone, communicating, transacting something back and forth, and if that continues to be positive, in general, that's going to continue to be a positive relationship, but like it's constantly in flux. Okay. And if people at some point aren't getting what they want out of it, they're going to leave unless the guilt and shame is overwhelming. Like there's a lot of these toxic families that still meet up with each other, but those are being held together by guilt and shame. But that's still transactional. They're transacting guilt and shame, and that's a control mechanism over someone else, keeping them in that relationship. Okay. But all behavior is transactional. You have an impulse behind everything that you do. Everything that you say, you want something for that. And when you continue not to get to what you want, you no longer want to have a relationship with that person. Okay? Unless you're being able to be manipulated by guilt and shame. But that's still, you are listening to your want and your transactional nature in the sense of, I want to see them more than I want to feel all this guilt and shame that I would get from my toxic family or my toxic partner, whatever that is. Okay. So, when you hear me talk about self-interest and stuff like that, I'm not talking about some bullshit Ayn Rand objective self-interest. She was not an objective person at all, if you've read her bios. She had some really intelligent things to say, but she was not an objective person. None of us are. We all follow our emotions, okay? Our emotions are our center. We use logic to be able to maximize the amount of state that we're able to have. We're emotional creatures. We are not logical. Logic is a tool for us to feel good. Every single moment of the day, we're trying to move towards pleasure and away from pain. So what I'm saying is, it's like not become rational self-interest. I'm saying people act in their self-interest at all times, regardless of what they say. Regardless, you're always acting in your self-interest. And so not to be surprised in relationships if you're not fulfilling someone else's self-interest if they want to end that relationship. Or if, they've done all the business with you and it's no longer useful to them. And that allows you to be able to end things gracefully, to end on a positive note, which I'm pretty good at. There were times in my 20s or whatever with women when you're emotionally invested where I've ended up things badly. You can watch the Seinfeld episode on the bad breaker upper because you want to punish someone because they hurt you. But ultimately, the more knowledge you have, the more awareness of this stuff you have, the more you'll be able to stop, to be able to keep the relationship going. Okay, like those guys who get divorced and they're blindsided, they'd had problems for 10 years that they just haven't been addressing. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the more you're able to end things on a positive note because you weren't under a delusion that something was going to last forever regardless of conditions. Okay. And you're able to manage your expectations, and that allows you like a massive amount of social and intellectual freedom because you're so much more accurately able to predict reality. So hope you found that video useful. If you want a tune-up, if you want to tighten up your game on a lot of this stuff, holler at your boy for some coaching, revolutionarylifestyledesign.com/coaching. If you want to get your social game up with women and your lifestyle together, you want to get my game-changing products, check out revolutionarylifestyledesign.com/products. But don't worry, their ebooks for now are all the university is going to be out by the end of this year. It's going to be everything that I know in one course. Stay tuned for that. If not, man, that's all good. Keep watching these videos, keep listening to the audios, keep reading my articles, revolutionarylifestyledesign.com. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I wish you all the best in your personal development journey.